Alright, so, what's up, y'all? I'm back again today with a very quick video. I don't have much time at all, but I just wanted to tell you guys something and ask a quick question. I made a video a little bit over a year ago. It was something to the effect of Africans versus the blacks in America, and where I was in a barbershop and I was talking to some gentlemen from Nigeria about the relationship of blacks and Africans, or should I say blacks in America, however you want to call it, versus Africans, and how many might not notice, but people in those two groups, or many will not admit also, but within those two groups there's a great amount of dissension. There's like a great amount of animosity, it seems, between the blacks in America and African Americans. And I could go deep into this, but I wanted to ask a quick question, because many blacks in America, now that we're quote unquote waking up or becoming more self-aware, and we're breaking away from some of the deceit that was told to us in school, we automatically want to shift to our attention towards Africa, right? We want to go African. We get the African continent tattooed on us and things of this. We want to be Egyptian, we want to be pharaohs, right? Okay, and I understand that. But now I asked this, I've been doing some researching, and I'll tell you a little bit about that at another time, but I asked this woman today, this African woman, where she was from, because I noticed her accent. And she immediately became offended, and she asked me, why did I ask her that? And I told her, well, I have a reason why I asked you. I just want to know where you're from, because you're obviously from Africa, I know, but I just want to know what country. And she got very offended, and she said, why? I said, why did you ask me that? And I said, well, if you want to know, I wanted to ask you, as an African woman who was born in Africa, do you view blacks in America, quote unquote African Americans, as one of your own? Do you view us as your family? She immediately became even more offended and started telling me about the fact that I don't need to worry about that. I need to worry about if blacks know that they're African, and blacks don't act African, and blacks do this, and blacks in America this and that. She started just going off on a tirade about what blacks in America do, when all I really wanted to ask her is that simple question. And to which case I had to give her rebuttals and start saying, well, you know, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but there's a dynamic where it's a two-sided dynamic, meaning a lot of the times Africans treat blacks in America lower than themselves, and they look down on them. I've seen this personally. There's actually a word called Akata, and I've talked to a number of Africans, particularly older Africans, and I ask them every time, well, what does Akata mean? Because a lot of the times when I feel like they're treating me disrespectfully, I ask them, hey, you think I'm Akata? And then they can't believe that I know that word. But I want to ask, let's have a righteous, honest debate, an honest conversation. What is Akata? Anybody that's African, tell me, what is Akata, and why do you name black Americans Akata? Why do you have a name for us if we're your brothers and sisters? And this isn't to go on a tirade, but this is from my perspective as a black American. Yes, many times I looked at Africa as something lesser than, because of the imaging that was given to us, and the images that were given to us as children were, we need to donate to them because they're living in mud huts, they don't have clean water, they have AIDS, mosquitoes on their face. This is what they told to us to subconsciously get us to not want to mess with y'all. So I agree, and I understand how that dynamic is played out. But when you come and you say things like Akata, and you tell your family to not associate with us, which is what I've been told by close African friends, that is just as unrighteous as what you claim that we're doing. Furthermore, in Africa, most, if not all Africans have a family dynamic and a culture that was not stripped from them, meaning they have their flag, their language, their heritage, their marital ceremonies from traditions before. They have everything that even though they might not have a financial status, they have these things that will put a sound moral base in them to where they can, on average, be more successful and have more discipline. Blacks in America, we've been stripped from all of that. Everything that you could think of, we've been stripped for. So the question again I ask is, if you're African, do you love African Americans? Am I the same as you truly? Truly, let's be honest and let's not give some political answer. Because again, there's a word called Akata, which I'm being told is basically like a lazy nigga, a cotton picking nigga. Why would you say that if I was truly your brother? If I was truly your brother, if you had a brother that was stolen and taken for 20 years and raised in a house full of savages and raised to eat from a dog bowl, and then he came, and you finally found him, and then he was eating from a dog bowl and living in his feces, would you make a name for him and tell others to stay away from your own brother? Or would you realize that your brother had been kidnapped from your home? He no longer knows how to operate and behave like he should. So then you're going to be even more patient with your brother, because you know what he's been through, and you're going to show them the ways of his correct household. That's the analogy that I have for how Africans should treat African Americans. But again, when I told the African lady that we were kidnapped, she said, "Oh, really? Were you now?" And I said, "Well, the story I was told that we were slaves, stolen from Africa. Is this not true?" And she said, "Well, if that's what you believe." And that's where I became questionable. So my question is, Africans, do you know anything that I don't know as a black American? Is there any biblical, historical evidence that may suggest that we may not even be the same people? This is just a question I have. Until then, vibrate higher.